You're listening to The Low and No Show, a podcast that tells the inspiring stories from brands and the founders. My name is Johnny Stevens, the founder of Better Without, the app that helps people discover low and no drinks. I'm sitting down with guests to hear their stories, learn about their products, and the lessons they've learned. Hello and welcome to another episode of The Low and No Show. I am here today with Chris and Rose from Bax Botanics. If you haven't come across them, I don't know where you've been living because they are everywhere in the media, being picked up by BBC Good Food and win awards. So I won't do any more introduction. It'd be great to hear from you. Hello.
Hi.
Hi, how are you doing,
How
Johnny?
are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, good. Very good.
Good. So it'd be great to hear just a brief introduction about the brand and how it came about.
Okay, so well, it kind of goes back a number of years. We have worked with Flavour. We've worked together for the last 20 years, and we originally were working with a business called Taste the Wild, where we teach people about foraging and how to cook over an open fire and how to use wild flavours, plant flavours in cooking. And we've done that. We did that full time until we started Bax Botanics. But so over that time, we were teaching about wild food, we were teaching about plant ingredients, we were also consulting to the food industry. So chefs would come to us, manufacturers would come to us and ask us about, this particular plant knowledge. And we used to create things really just to inspire people or for other people, nothing for ourselves.
At the end of every course, every foraging day course, there would be a whole selection of things for people to taste, things that I'd made from seasonal wild plants. So it might have been, a gooseberry and elderflower vodka, or it might have been a lime blossom marmalade, or all sorts of just things that were particular for that time of year. People would have a little taste of the different things. So it was all about preserving those flavours, but in interesting ways, whether it was wines or vinegars or jams or jellies or all sorts, drying and salting, these things. People would be inspired and have the recipes to go off and do these things. But they would ask if we could sell them any of the products. And we never did make anything for market, but we just wanted to give people an idea of what they could make themselves, really.
Amazing.
So sort of we've been asked quite a lot of times over the years, oh, can you produce this? Will you create a company to manufacture this product? And nothing seemed, well, sustainability was a big thing. We're a couple of tree huggers, it's like we're always worried about, like, God, if this wild preserve, if Tesco's decide they want it and suddenly we've got to produce thousands of jars of it, how do we possibly get that stuff from the wild? It's just not possible sustainably. So we never did it. But we kind of had this just over a couple of years ago, we had this sort of perfect storm of things come together where we'd been working for doing some consulting to gin distillers, and we'd been playing around with distilling. We'd been asked to come up with a gin, actually, but we kind of felt that there is some fantastic gin products out there, and also Britain has probably reached just about peak gin, I think, and it was a very difficult playing field to play on. So we also live in the middle of nowhere, and one of us always has to drive. And we were noticing very much that the local pubs where we are, and the restaurants, amazing drinks lists. If you're drinking alcohol, crikey, what a choice you've got. The average pub around us now must have 20 different gins on their back bar, that you can choose from. Great wine list, great craft beers, really so much to choose from. And then you say you're not drinking alcohol, and your choice at that stage was minimal, And so we thought, well, why not try and produce something that is complex and adult and grown up. It feels like a celebratory treat, but it's alcohol free. And that's when we started playing with producing an alcohol free, I suppose, spirit substitute.
We got some friends coming down to the woods, and we were cooking for them, like a Sunday lunch. It was a Spanish tapas style thing over the campfire, and we'd made some alcohol-free distillations to give them to drink, just because they were driving and because it was a new thing, and you can't keep a creative person down, really. So we just made these things, and we were using silver fir and all sorts of ingredients from the woods, actually, in the distillations, and I was really quite excited about them. And our friends said, "Wow, this is so good. We've got to take this to market." But yeah, as Chris said, the sustainability was always an issue, so we couldn't use ingredients from the woods, really, wild ingredients. It just wouldn't have been right. So the organic herb trading came to the fore then, and we started looking at ways that we could use fair trade ingredients that were sort of kind to the earth as well. So the organic was brilliant. So we changed the recipes, but the original ones, had
amazing
bits and pieces from the woods.
Yeah. And I think with distillation and the capturing of flavour, I always sort of bring up the kind of not just the gin maker's art, but the sort of perfumier's art as well when you're making these things. And I'm sure gin distillers think about these things too. But just like a scent and a flavour are incredibly evocative of a time and place. And so when we'd been playing around originally with distillation, I'd actually even taken some of the forest floor, and dried it out in the, literally the leaf litter, and dried it out in the dehydrator and then distilled with that. And it absolutely wasn't something you'd want to drink, but it was incredibly evocative of that time and place. So when I initially started the recipe development and I wasn't using forest floor, but I was using other things, and I was struggling a bit with the alcohol free. But then Rose kind of approached it from that angle of like a time and a place, and that's when the flavours were born, really, because there was kind of different. The drinks sort of come from the two that we have, verbena and sea buckthorn. They're definitely part of the same family, but they're very different drinks. And Rose came up with them thinking about a sort of time and place.
And that's the nice thing, is you can, having created two, it gives the opportunity for different people's taste profiles, because everyone is going to have likes and dislikes. And I spoke about it on someone else's podcast the other day. What I like is going to be very different from someone else. And actually, I think naturally the low and no world, people sometimes try and go, well, it's awful, and then just give this blanket approach that everything must be bad. But as you said, you have 20 odd gins in your local bar. Well, you're not going to always like every single one. We're all going to have different profiles.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think also, I don't know about you, but like when I'm choosing a drink, what I drink on an evening in January is not going to be the same thing I choose to drink on an afternoon sat in the sun in July. It's clearly not the same. It's not the same requirements. And so like verbena, our verbena expression is kind of much more, to me, much more summery. It's fresh and it's bright and it's invigorating. And then when you did the sea buckthorn, you were looking at a completely different sort of thing. Yeah,
it was relaxing to a chair at the end of the day, and it was that was what I was wanting to achieve. And so, when I was looking at the flavour wheel, I was actually considering all those pointers really when creating recipes. So there was sort of an emotion I was wanting to achieve as well as a flavour. It's interesting.
Which is important, I think, knowing that that occasion is actually, that whole, you're not going to necessarily pop a bottle of Prosecco on a Monday evening, all the time, but actually having different drinks for those different occasions.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's why there's such a thing as an aperitif or a whiskey or something. They're all for a particular time. Yeah.
No, I think so. And it's interesting that at the moment, Sea Buckthorn, which was the one that was designed to be more of the kind of wintry evening drink, that's the one that's getting all the press in this winter.
Interesting.
And I think that Verbena is just as good. In a lot of ways, it's my favourite. But I just don't think it's its time. And I think when people are writing about alcohol-free drinks to drink while they're watching Wimbledon or something, the Verbena and tonic with a slice of cucumber in it is just spot on. I mean, it's like it works so well, and works also very well with some of the other sort of summer flavours. I always, for years with the foraging and all that, the elderflower has always been that kind of quintessential English summer flavour, whether it's sort of elderflower champagne or elderflower wine or cordial, whatever it is, we make it all. And coincidentally, actually, elderflower and elderflower tonics and cordial stuff go really, really nicely with the summery flavours of Verbena.
Well, I did consider putting it in there. I considered elderflower in the recipe, but it was the old tree hugger bit in me. I just thought, there's so many elderflower products out there. There can't be enough elderflower in the world to support it all.
I think we could, with the farms, I think they've had to start farming on a big scale now. So I think we probably would have been able to do it. But,
there was a lot of that in my considerations. Same with juniper and all sorts of things.
It's probably
so completely rubbish.
No, it is. I mean, having sustainability is incredibly important, and it's important for so many of the hospitality brands. They're looking at it all the time, and we've got to look after the planet, and anything we can do is important.
Well, we have sort of pillars of our business, and one of them is sustainability. And whenever we make a decision, particularly larger decisions, but often small decisions, we always refer back to those pillars. And one of those is, as I say, sustainability. So whether we are looking at how we wrap up a pallet or how we box a single bottle going out to a customer, or even, how we heat the office, what electricity company we use, we try and consider those things at each stage. And it's actually amazing, because if you consider each small thing, it's not actually an inconvenience. It's like it actually focuses your mind a lot more. And so I think I've always believed that with ecology and looking after the planet, sometimes people are a bit overwhelmed by all the things they think they should be doing. But I think, if we all made one change, it would start and then did another change in a month's time and got better. Those small changes have amazing effects, So sustainability is really important to us, and as is our sort of environmental credentials. We work hard on those.
And it is so important. I had a conversation with the guys at Freestyle the other day, whose podcast coming out shortly, and they're all about that. They very much said, right, we are fine. Being able to be the founders of this business, we want to do it in the way we believe, and it needs people. All these businesses, as you say, even if it's a small bit, but that makes a big difference.
Yeah. It's just being mindful about what you're doing, and rather than just, I think it's very easy to kind of take the path of least resistance, and And often that path of least resistance is historically what's been easy. And historically what's been easy is to not consider these things and to, you know, go for the plastic packaging and, you know, go for the, you know, inflatable bottle protection or whatever it is, because it works. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's amazing at getting bottles from A to B without getting smashed. So get it, but I think we just have to think, right, okay, yeah, that's great, that does the job, but can we do that job better in a way that is going to be less of a burden on the planet? And so, yeah, I think, and people are doing that. It's like you say, you know, it's not.
There's a lot of research that you need to do. You really have to look into these things quite carefully, you know, whether it's boxes or ingredients or whatever, but whether things are flown or shipped or, so there's a lot to be done, but
small changes, small things.
It is. And if everyone, as you say, if everyone does those small changes, then it will make a big difference. And I'm intrigued in terms of we were talking about obviously going to your local pub and there being 20 odd gin choices. What needs to happen, do you think, in terms of to have it so that actually it's 22 and there's 2 low and no, you know, spirits on there? What is it that the consumer needs to have that choice and it's a bit of time needed, or is it hospitality need to do more to push it? Do you have your view on that?
I think that it is coming, and you know, we launched in January 2019, and 2 years later there is a definite different feel within the market. But I think what is a real interesting thing is that with the alcohol-free drinks, understandably, I mean, when we sort of started, we called our drink a spirit, and you know, people associate it with gin and all these things. But our product has no juniper in it, and obviously it has no alcohol in it, so it's not a gin. And what I think that it's this path of least resistance again, and we took it on this case. You know, we went down that spirit route, and it kind of implies one thing. And I think we need to be really careful. The whole industry needs to be careful because we're not trying to. So I don't think Bax Botanics is trying to mimic alcohol, but it is trying to produce a luxury adult drink that is a massive treat when you're not drinking alcohol.
The other thing is that it's normally drunk when it's diluted with a mixer. So therefore, in that way, it's easy for the customer to understand that it's a spirit because it's drunk that way. So I think,
and it's made in a very similar way as well. You know, you can probably see if Rose puts her head to one side, you can see a small still behind her head, actually.
Nice.
Which is our product development product. We use it. I mean, it's a nice decorative thing, but we use it for product development as well. But you know, it's made in that way. But I do think that in order to, I think if people keep tasting these drinks and thinking it's going to be like drinking gin, it can approach that, and you know, there's people within the industry who've done that really, really nicely. But
people say ours is a great alcohol-free gin.
There's
not a gin botanical in it. We don't try and say it's a gin, but you drink it with tonic, and so people sort of make that connection in their mind, and it is a little bit like a gin, but only because there's nothing else to compare it with.
Well, I think going back to your point, you know, I think what we need to do is convince people that there is alternatives to, you know, really good grown-up alternatives to drinking alcohol when they can't or don't want to. It's amazing. So when we first started 2 years ago, and we were going out and we were talking to people about these, they were like, "Well, what is the point?" You know, literally, we've had that from, you know, hotels and, you know, bar owners. And what's the point? I can't see the point. Who is going to pay the price of a gin and tonic for an alcohol-free drink? And they, but people do. You know, equally, we have other customers who've basically said, right, and okay, you know, our business lunches, everyone used to drink water, our spend per head on drinks on our £15 business lunch was awful. Then we created a big business lunch alcohol-free cocktail menu with 4 cocktails on it.
Nice.
And it's gone up 500%.
Wow.
You know, I mean, even if you just to hit people with that financial thing, that particular restaurant, their average spend per head on drinks on a business lunch went up 500%.
Wow.
So I think back to your question, I think it's going to be led in a lot of ways. I think that the TV, the media, the bars, the supermarkets, there's going to be lots and lots of different sort of points and places where people are going to be slightly influenced, you know, whether it's TV commercials or just people being healthy after lockdown or whatever. But I think it's going to come from all sorts of points.
Yeah.
I think in the end, it's going to become just a thing. You know, the alcohol, the adult alcohol-free drink, whether that is, you know, a really interesting aperitif, whether it's a spirit style drink, whether it's a beer, whether it's a cider, whether it's a wine, it's just going to be something that people see as another drink.
Yeah.
It's not going to be this kind. So I think it's been this slight novelty for a few years. My feeling is now that novelty value is still there, but it's kind of accepted novelty. And I think it's really been helped by big players like Diageo, you know, producing Gordon 0.0.
Yeah. Because
suddenly somebody goes, oh, right, okay. Yeah. Oh, it's a thing then. You know, Gordons have done it. It must, that alcohol-free thing must be a real thing. You know, people will go to that, just like they've always gone to Gordon's as a that kind of mainstream gin brand. They will go to that, and they'll think, right, and just like all the other gin producers found, you know, people then go, well, yeah, but I want something different. I want something that's been made by, you know, a person in a barn, or, you know, I want something with slightly different botanicals. I want something that appeals more to my, you know, to taste profiles that I like. And they will find, just like they found all these different gins, you know, people, you talk to people who drink gin, they almost certainly have a favourite gin after,
of course,
you know, they'll say, oh no, that's my go-to.
People enjoy actually discovering the new ones, and they'll be saying to their friend, oh, have you tried this one? Tried that one? But I think it's becoming, like Chris says, it's acceptable now to be not drinking, to be drinking something else, and almost to be, you can be proud that you're drinking something new and something different, and not slightly embarrassed. People used to be like, oh, I'll have a tonic water, would you put a slice of lemon in it so it looks like a gin? But not anymore, I think.
No, and it is, I think, the consumer having those options, but actually the industry has massively put so much effort into making sure the flavors are there and everything, so the choice available, but actually the quality now is, you know, just going better and better and better. And I think, as you say, people will feel less inclined to drink, and I've been writing a few blogs recently and looking at, actually, you know, there's quite a few pub landlords that are very much don't want it, because I think they fear of the damage it could do. But then my argument is actually people like the pub, especially in the UK, people like that pub environment. Actually, would people swap a coffee shop for a pub if they had really good, you know, non-alcoholic, you know, drinks? Because actually it's a very nice environment, and if you can have a really good quality drink, maybe that actually, if they embrace it, they will do very well.
Yeah, well, I think you brought up the coffee thing then, and I think lots of pubs now make really good money off selling coffee, because you can go in there at lunchtime and have a sandwich with your mate, and one of you can have a pint and the other one can just have a cup of tea or a cup of coffee. And I think that very easily translates. And like I was saying about, you know, our customer who's put this lunchtime cocktail menu on, you know, it's if you give people the opportunity to have that, then they will have it. I think it's very important for us as a kind of alc-free producing community to market it in the right way as well. Yeah. So we've always said that if we go in somewhere, there is no point in just selling some bottles into this place and them sticking them on the bar back.
Yeah.
Because they'll stay there. I can guarantee they'll stay there and no one will ever touch them. What we need to do is we need to train the bar staff. So when I walk in, like I have done before we made Bax Botanics, walked into a pub and like, right, you know, I'll have such and such and tonic, it's a glass of Albarino for Rose, and it's like, Greg will have a pint of that.
Yeah.
I'm driving. Have you got anything interesting that I can have? And then they would basically go, no, not really. We do some really nice Fentimans stuff, and those ones like, right, fair enough. Yeah. But what we need to do is make sure that it becomes a thing. So that person who's not able to drink alcohol, whether that's driving, whether that's health, whether that's religion, whether that's pregnancy, whatever it is, they have this option.
I do think though that I think all the brands, because all the brands, we're all doing bits of PR, we're all talking about our own brands, but we're talking about the sector as well.
Yes.
And I think that in a way, everybody is clubbing together. I mean, like yourself and loads of people just saying it's a great idea.
Yeah.
And it's helping everybody, landlords and the customers as well, because it's showing them what they can have.
I used to be a chef. That's my background before we met. And I remember back in the 1990s, one of the jobs that you least wanted to do was design the vegetarian special.
Yeah. So
it'd be like, I worked in a kitchen at one stage, very, high end thing, and back in the 90s, it was like, oh really? So what are we going to do today? It was hard work, and it wasn't hard work in the end. It was interesting. There's one of the chefs who came to work with us who worked with a guy, a Michelin-starred chef who was quite into the vegetarian thing, and he came in and he kind of just blew us all out of the water. Yeah. But what I guess my point is that at that stage, the vegetarian option was at the back of the list.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was like, you can have this, and this with meat in. Oh, and by the way, that we're doing a mushroom risotto or pasta and pesto or something at the end.
But now, so much different. People. You look at a plate of food and they're picking flavours. It's almost like a flavour wheel, isn't it?
Yeah.
You've got all your different textures and all that, and it's the same with the drinks.
Well, I think we always looked at plates of food like that, but you always had that centerpiece which tended to be a lump of protein, and now that's not the case. And when you look at a menu now, it flows completely through vegetarian, non-vegetarian. It's only indicated because it's got a little V at the end of it, but it just reads as a menu. What we've got to do is convince the drinks world that that's how alcohol-free works. Yeah. So, the fact that it hasn't got alcohol in it, it's about flavour. It's about flavour, the occasion, what I want to drink now. So just like when you're choosing a bottle of wine, so some days it's, I'm eating a particular food and it's a particular time of day and I definitely want a crisp white wine. Yeah. There'll be another time when I'll look at the same menu and I'll want to choose a real rich, robust red.
Yeah.
There is going to be a day when I want to go into that menu and find the one that says AF next to it because I know that everybody in the group's driving. It's all wine. Yeah. They just do different things at different times. And I think that's what we have to look at and just make it part of people's lives. Because as I say, there are more and more times in our lives when we can't drink. There was a time when I know when I left school and some of the guys, we went out to work and whatever, and lunchtime, people would go out from an office and have 2 or 3 pints and then go out to work. Yeah. I know bank managers used to do that every day. It's just like, imagine trying to do that now. Yeah. So there's a perfect scenario, these high-powered business people want to drink something that's sophisticated and great. They don't want to have the alcohol.
No, and they don't want the sugar of whatever soft drink being high in sugar and actually, you can't. If you drink 3 or 4 of those, you'd be buzzing for the afternoon. So you want something else that, as you say, is sophisticated and if you are going out for dinner, as you said, you don't mind paying the price and having something that is really good quality in terms of the flavour.
Yeah, I think flavour's everything, and that's what we've got to make sure as an industry we deliver to people. It's delivering that quality, and also not. I think not trying to say we're a substitute for an alcoholic drink. It's not a substitute. It is something else that you drink when you can't drink alcohol. It's not. It's not. Yeah. It's a great alternative. It's an alternative, but not a substitute. Yeah. And I think that's really important, because I think if people drink a lot of the alcohol-free stuff and think it's going to be like drinking a gin and tonic, then they might be slightly disappointed because it is a different product. Even though we make it in a very similar way, there's a fundamental thing missing, and alcohol has an effect on your mouth as it does on everything else. So I think that's the key to it, really. And it will happen. Those choices will be there.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think the world and different countries are definitely looking for the UK for the way it's grown this sector. I mean, I speak to America and Dubai and Australia a lot, and I'm always, in my mind, I always think, America must be way ahead. But actually, it seems to be that we are getting massive amount of attention for what we're doing in the UK. Have you felt that yourselves?
Yeah. I think that Britain has a lot of creative people here. I don't know why. I don't know why we're all so creative, but just historically, we invent things, don't we? We come up with ideas. I think we're ideas people. But the States and Dubai. There's a lot of interest out there. Yeah, there is.
And I think they will. Well, I think. Obviously, once hospitality opens in the UK, it'll be very interesting to see how that adapts over here. But I do see the US, in the amount of sort of alcohol-free bars and everything I'm starting to speak to, it is massively gaining traction, very, very quickly.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, we've got an interview this afternoon with an important lady. In the States.
So it's interesting, things popping up everywhere. But it is interesting also that, like you say, I think the UK has produced some amazing products. I mean, in the end, the as far as the spirit side goes, it was basically Seedlip who broke that. Ben did such an amazing job, by. Because it must have been really tough. Yeah.
Oh, it was really
tough.
tough.
A couple of years later, when we started, and people were going, "What are you talking about?" Yeah. At least he'd kind of got a product out there that was doing really well by the time we launched. And so that's obviously come from the UK and now is international.
Yeah.
But all these little brands are all sort of getting the interest from overseas. It feels very, very exciting.
Yeah.
I mean, that's down to technology, if you'd launched this 10 years ago, 15 years ago, who would have heard about it? But with social media and the growth of the internet over the last 15 years, you can market internationally. You can be a tiny little company and you can market internationally. So it's amazing.
Yeah. And actually, I think now people, because we have been locked down and whatever, they are looking to try new products because actually they're not going on holiday or whatever. So they can go out and discover these things, because actually if that bottle arrives and that's your little bit of joy for the week is, brilliant.
No, it's true. It's true. We did some little gift packs just before Christmas, just with the little tiny bottles in there, with that same idea really, that people could just buy the 2 little bottles and test out which one they thought was for them. But yeah, they've gone really well. But the people, I think, liked the fact that they were in a box, because we had just sold them separately as 2 bottles to reduce packaging. But people like to have the box. I think it presents it nicely, and it's got a little bit of the story of the product on there and some descriptions and things. They like that.
Like you say, it's that treat. Yeah, exactly. It's that treat. But you were saying, you know, that's their treat for the week, because they're not going out on Saturday night. So let's have a try.
And I think actually doing it in small bottles is a great way of doing it, because it's, you know, when you have a spirit and, you know, if you don't know what you're buying, it's quite hard as a consumer to go, I'm going to make that purchase. You know, a bottle of beer is quite easy, because if you don't like it, it's maybe a couple of pounds. But a spirit is definitely, it's a commitment of a purchase. So having the ability to actually try both as well, you know, you've captured that sort of that market where actually people are willing to pay for it and can, you know, feel like they are getting that treat.
No, definitely. No, it's the possibilities are huge at the moment. It's a very exciting time, particularly the international stuff. I said, like you say, you know, it's so big around the world. So yeah. Keep our fingers crossed.
You must have tasted so many.
I have. I was saying to Danny from the US the other day, I think I must be up to about 200 of different brands and different products, and it's amazing, and it's of everything, you know, every single category. And I was there's a bit of a joke between my friends, because, you know, I think naturally people think you lose weight when you stop drinking, and I said I've definitely done the opposite. You know, with every free sample that gets sent, it's like, oh, you know, I feel like I have to try it.
yeah, definitely, Oh no, you definitely have to try it. You've got to be the font of all knowledge, I think, you know, with what you're doing.
No, it is, and it's fascinating, and starting to work. I mean, one of the things we want to do is very much work on, you know, guiding people as well with sort of perfect serves and how to use these products, because again, you know, it's you don't just walk into a bar and tell the bartender how to do it. You know, you need that education, and when people are at home, and that for me is a big part of actually especially the spirit world, is going, actually this is some varieties. You know, you may just want to try it with tonic, or actually you can make this type of cocktail.
Oh, I think cocktails are a huge thing, and we do a lot with cocktails. It's become, it's almost become your hobby now, hasn't it? So I used to get really frustrated because we just want to have a weekend. I just want to have a weekend off, and I was like, well, let's make some alcohol-free cocktails. And I was like, no, I don't want to. All I've been talking about all week is alcohol-free drink. And I used to get upset about it, but now I just realised it's just like, well, no, it's not Rose working. It's like Rose having fun, and it's
I'll be thinking, right, I'm going to make a beetroot cordial, because I really think that depth is going to be really good with a bit of orange and the sea buckthorn, or, you know, it's just like, it's a complete hobby. It's just like Chris cooking. It's just like, I want to have a go with some of those flavours and see how it'll all work. And it's messing around, really, having fun.
And I guess it's that balance between realizing that actually, you could go and develop 10 new flavors, but actually you've got 2 flavors and all the variations that you can create through adding different things in.
Yeah, well, I do want to do some more flavors, some more distillations. I'm really easily distracted, unfortunately. Oh yeah, I'll see something on Instagram and somebody will be doing something. I'll see something in a book and I'll just think, oh yes, or I'll see something in the garden, because the garden tends to be full of mostly edible things, as you might imagine. And I just see something and I think, oh yes, I could use that. That's really exciting. So yeah, new distillations yeah, hopefully this year I'll get round to it.
Yeah. No, we'll look forward to seeing what comes out.
But yeah, back to your point about cocktails. I mean, I think that's another place. You know, when we talk about menus, Rose was listening to a little podcast this morning actually, and they were talking about you know, quite high-end cocktail mixologist who was saying it used to be just like the vegetarian menu. You know, the alcohol-free was on the bottom, but now they're becoming an integral part of that menu, and yeah, it's. I think working with people, just like if you're a food producer and you produce an amazing, you know, whatever it is, piece of produce, it's great to work with chefs, because those chefs then just go, oh, I tell you what you can do with that, and then they transform it. They take your kind of baby, your creation, and they creatively use it to make something amazing. And I think, you know, working with mixologists has certainly been really exciting for us.
Yeah, there's been quite a few of the guys that are on Instagram that mix cocktails, and they've done some really exciting things with the Bax Botanics. And yeah, I think I know the flavours and I like playing around, but yeah, you actually get some of these mixologists on the case, and yeah, there's some really super stuff comes out.
Oh, they are incredible, and for me, it will be probably the high end, you know, sort of restaurants that will do that creativity, and naturally that will float down into the casual dining world and everything, and that's typically where stuff starts. And you know, I work with our mixologist, and actually a lot of it is simplicity. You know, it's so easy to overcomplicate things, and especially when people at home, people don't have dry ice and smoke and everything. They just, you know, and don't have the time.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely true. But I think that's what's really interesting about and it certainly boomed during the whole COVID thing, is the home bartender. You know, the person who is not a professional, has a completely other, you know, different job, but like Rose, you know, their hobby is doing cocktails, and whether they're alcohol free or alcohol free, sometimes alcohol free always, or alcohol free never, whatever it is, those people have, they're doing it very much from the sort of home perspective. And I have to say, you know, I think with that, the internet being so kind of open to everybody, you kind of, I mean, you get obviously, because it's open to everything, you get lots of terrible stuff, you know. I don't mean cocktails, but just terrible generally, because everybody's in there. But it kind of levels the playing field, so you don't need to be the top bartender in the top hotel to get your idea about this amazing cocktail out there. And although we've worked with some great people who are absolutely at the top of their profession, we've also worked with people who are teachers during the week, or, you know, they're engineers in another country, or, you know, and yet they're coming up with these superb drinks. So I think we need to foster that, you know, that is going to be what makes our, you know, the whole sector more accepted, because people are just going to see it. The more people see it, the more it's seen as normal. It's not this kind of strange novelty cousin of the spirit of the alcoholic spirit world that you sometimes might drink if you can't have a gin and tonic. It's not that anymore. But the more we can kind of foster that idea, the better.
I think there's one other last little thing I'd say as well. I think sometimes you can have like twin drinks, so you can have one with alcohol and one without, and, you know, but put some substitutes in there, and so long as they're as good as each other, I think that's a really interesting way of doing it. I'll leave it to that one. We've had some alcohol-free versions of drinks with Bax Botanics in that have been as good, if not better, flavour-wise than the alcoholic alternatives. It's great. It's really, that's exciting me at the moment.
It's
Yeah,
really
no.
exciting. We went to a really nice little cocktail bar in Bristol ages ago now, and took some bottles in with us, and was just chatting to the mixologist behind the bar, and I was giving her the things to taste, and she said, "Oh, I know what to do with that straight away." And I was like, "Well, yeah, no, go on, fill your boots, do it." It was great. I mean, such a great experience to sit there. And she made a south side, but she made a south side with Bax Botanics Verbena, no alcohol in it. And this was quite early on. We hadn't launched very long. No, we'd only just touched on the whole cocktail thing. And she just put it together beautifully. She put it in a beautiful glass. She garnished it, put it in front of me, and I drank it. And literally, I had this kind of, every hair on my body kind of went, oh, I was like, my God, that's something. We made the base of that cocktail, and it was just, it was an amazing. I'll never forget it. I'll absolutely never forget it. And the south side, I think, 99 times out of 100, I drink Bax Botanics with tonic. But that south side, I'll keep on going back to, and I use it now. Before lockdown happened, if we were going out training people, and people go, well, what can you do? What can you do if you don't want, you want to do something a bit different from just put the sort of classic serve? So I used to take a cocktail shaker out with me and do a south side. And I don't think it has, in every single case I've done it in, kind of from a pub to quite a smart bars in hotels, everyone's just like, yeah, that's fantastic. But that, classic cocktail with an alcohol-free ingredient.
Yeah, I think you've just given me a new hobby about walking around with a shaker in every bottle and giving it to a bartender.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think it's yeah. Get the creative people creating. We're good at distillation. We're good at making the drinks, but I think when you come to mixing, it's just
it's an art.
Fantastic. It is an art, and people come at it from such interesting, points of view, and not just the classic route, but we know somebody who's got really into vegetable growing during the whole lockdown. Top bartender, got into vegetable growing, now looking at vegetable-based cocktails, and you just think like, well, that's amazing, incredibly creative. Or you get, because of the internet and because we're managing to reach out to people all over the world, you suddenly see an ingredient being used. Because often I don't look where people are from, you just kind of think, oh, it's a person doing something really creative. And you think, right, I've never even heard of that ingredient. And then you realize that they're from several thousand miles away. And so that is then introduced to you as well. And yeah, phenomenal, really phenomenal. Yeah, it's very exciting, the whole cocktail world.
I think everything that's going on is incredibly exciting. Cocktails, the low and no, and once we get out of COVID, I think it is going to be an exciting world. And until people can get out and try you in bars and restaurants, where can they find you? Where can they get a bottle?
So probably the easiest place and what seems to be doing really well is online at the moment. So they can get it direct from us at www.baxbotanics.com, but also places like Master of Malt. And then you've got an amazing in the alcohol-free world. We've now got some superb, people like Wise Bartender who are doing great ranges. The Alcohol-Free Co. All have these amazing ranges right the way across beer, spirits, cider, wine, all these different things. And it gives people a really good, choice and a really good place where they can go for all their alcohol-free drinks.
In the north of England, if there's any northerners watching, there's Booth Supermarket.
Oh, yes.
The Waitrose of the North. We're in there, and that's a great supermarket. But other sort of farm shops and delis and smaller places.
You can see for the bricks and mortar retail, we tend to we've got a map on the website so people can see. We're doing, I think, online sales through all sorts of industries obviously have done very well over the last year, and we're noticing that is what our best route to customer at the moment is through online, as I say, whether that's through us or from one of our sort of fantastic partners who are selling it.
Yeah, no, amazing. Well, we'll make sure there's links in the bios so people can go and check you out. So yeah, it's been a fascinating discussion. We've explored lots of different areas, and I'm excited to see what's coming next for you guys, and maybe we'll catch up again soon.
Yeah, it would be great.
Thank you so much.
And thank you so much for chatting to us. It's great.
Really good.
No worries. Thank you very much.
All right, cheers.
Cheers,
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.